Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Dinar Updates Facebook Crew news call for Thursday, 23 February 2017. I'm glad to have those of you who could make it on the call tonight. Got kind of a short crew tonight. Tonight we have Kathy, Andrew, myself, with special guest BGG and any and all input he may have to add to the mix. As I say, it's a small crew tonight, but we've got some good info that we hope to talk about and maybe help people see the significance of the info. Okay, first of all, we have Kathy with us, who's going to lead us in a prayer. And we'll remember Kathy in our prayers because she's dealing with bronchitis tonight herself. So, Kathy, make sure you shoehorn yourself in there.
Okay. Can everybody hear me good?
Gotcha.
Okay. Dear Lord, we come tonight to thank you for all of the blessings we have and for bringing us all together to learn and to share. We ask that you would be with us, that we may shine your light into the world. We also ask, Lord, that you would be with one of our own, Red Poston, tonight, who has lost a dear and treasured friend, and to all those who need you, the sick, the weary, the weak, and the homeless. Be with them, Lord, and grant them healing and hope. Be also with those who serve, military, first responders, firefighters, law enforcement. Protect them and keep them safe from harm. Be also with the families of the fallen, wherever they are, and give them your comfort and peace. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you,
Amen.
Kathy. Thank you. Kathy, you had a piece that you've been working on the better part of a week.
Yeah.
And I want to ensure that is the first thing we cover tonight. So
okay,
at your leisure when you're ready.
All right, guys. I may be a little croaky, so bear with me. The humanitarian news from Iraq these days has been heart-wrenching. There have been reports of the horrors that have been carried out by ISIS on innocent men, women, and children. We've heard of the riots and car bombings in Baghdad, where Iraqi citizens have been killed or wounded. The Kurds are once again making noises of splitting from Baghdad and wanting to form their own country and pretty much telling anyone who will listen. We've seen reports recently of some Iraqi soldiers reportedly taking revenge on Sunni citizens in Mosul. And perhaps the one possibly biggest story of all is that ISIS is still holding the people of western Mosul hostage. Reports of torture, car bombings, and killings have been on the increase. So then, where is the good news in that? I'm going to start out tonight by giving you a little history lesson, and forgive me for reading this, but I didn't have time to memorize it. I've been kind of dealing with this icky stuff for a while now. Anyway, it is believed by scholars and historians alike that ISIS was formed over many, many centuries and is a direct byproduct of larger, more powerful religions and countries oppressing certain sects of Muslims. They were used as slaves, humiliated, tortured, and made less than worthless because of their beliefs. By the end of World War I, Muslims were dominated and demeaned to the point of near extinction. Out of this oppression grew a great hatred by certain members of these Muslims for people of power and dominance. These people began to nurture this hatred until it grew into its own religion of sorts in their minds, and they began to believe that God, or Allah as they want to call him, was calling them to band together and rise up. However, this is not a religion, but an ideology grown out of hatred. Over time, absolute greed and these beliefs have become so real to them that the only thing that satisfies them is the total destruction of anything that disagrees with their beliefs. Instead of being the objects of torture, destruction, and humiliation, they have now become the perpetrators. This mindset, inbred over centuries, has grown to monstrous proportions as we have seen being carried out in streets, cities, and countries all over the world, and most recently in Iraq and Mosul. Women have fewer rights than animals, their only purpose being to fulfill the lusts of their captors and used as ovens to breed future generations for the caliphate. Children are nothing more to them than trainable puppets to be programmed as soldiers for their evil army or used as shields to protect their leaders. Boys and men are humiliated, beaten, and tortured in order to break their spirit and keep them under their control to do their bidding. Since the beginning of man, there have been bullies. Bullies gain power by humiliating and overpowering the weak or the unsuspecting. They delight in the complete domination of others and feed off of the fear of their prisoners. I know that you're probably sitting there right now saying, okay, Kathy, I'm not feeling too good here. Where's the good news and happy ending? Here it is, folks. I'm telling you, the happy ending is playing out on the streets of Mosul, in the mountains of Kurdistan and Baghdad, and all over Iraq right now. The people of Iraq have started using ISIS' own philosophy and mindset against them and using humiliation to do it. Men, women, and even children are defying the odds all over Iraq and laughing in the face of ISIS. Men and women in West Mosul are making their lives and the lives of their families, risking their lives and the lives of their families to report on ISIS operatives, locations, and activities. Youth are souping up their cars and racing in the streets of eastern Mosul to raise money for youth activities. Women are opening restaurants, lingerie, and beauty shops and finding their voices in direct defiance of ISIS rules. People are returning from refugee camps to uncertain futures, no services, and possibly no homes to rebuild their lives in their homeland. Boys and men are shaving, smoking, and putting on shorts to play soccer again. Children are going back to school, even the girls. And in the purest act of defiance I have ever seen in my lifetime, people all over Iraq celebrated Valentine's Day. How's that for getting in the face of ISIS, huh? My dad once told me the wisest words I've ever heard. Bullies cannot stand to be stood up to. When you can look them in the eye and show them no fear, you have defeated them. Those words were as true when I was 6 years old and sobbing my heart out after being picked on at school as they are today. I believe with all of my heart Iraq is telling ISIS and the world that evil can be defeated, not just with bullets and bombs, but with faith, hope, and determination. And that, folks, is the good news for tonight.
That is good. You saw that they took the airport today, didn't you?
Yes, I did. And that is awesome news.
What's that?
I said, and that is awesome news.
Yeah. They seem to be making pretty good headway and have some really good projections. Romello had a report that referenced 72 hours, but I think that was yesterday when that report came out. I don't like throwing those things out, but it was in a report. So, the 72-hour thing, because I think it's ambitious, but, it's what it is. It's their projection.
Well, when you've paid the rats to turn each other in, it kind of helps a little.
Yeah, I mean, they are getting a lot of help from the people, and the big rub is how do you get, because they have gone the extra mile to try to keep the collateral damage down. So the thing is, what should the people be doing? Should they be, trying to escape, or should they hunker down? Either one is a dangerous outlook. So it's not easy, but it's getting better, and that's the great news.
Absolutely.
And the world
Absolutely.
is, like BGG points out, the world's tired of the buffoonery. So.
Well, yeah, and I think that Iraq is getting sick to death of being oppressed. It's like, they're going to stand up and fight now, and I love what I'm seeing.
Oh yeah, they definitely have their pride shirts on, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
They're
bringing that up, Kathy, about Iraqis wanting to stand up. I was brought up earlier today that I saw an article yesterday talking about some Iraqis over there in Mosul fighting on the west side are actually taking matter in their own hands, and they're blowing up buildings with ISIS members inside of it. So.
I saw that too. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's not just Iraqi fighters that are rebelling. You're starting to see rebel. You're starting to see the people that were oppressed by Daesh, and just a lot of news coming out with reconciliation and everything. And it's really looking promising with everything that's amounted to so far with that the Iraqis had gone through.
And they have a leader who is all on their side, and I think they see that too.
Oh yeah, his people numbers. Can you speak up a little bit, Andrew? I'm having trouble hearing you, bro.
Yeah, I was just saying with Badi and Hakeem, that those two guys, and then you're seeing other people starting to step up as well, like with these new ministers, and especially the industry interior minister. I'm seeing a lot of stuff with him stepping up and doing his job right, and it's just it's all looking good.
Yeah, you're talking about Raji? Is that his name? Yeah, he had his brother arrested because he knew he was dirty, and over there dirt rubs off. So he didn't want no backlash, and he said he already knows it's what it is. So and that's pretty good. What I want to do is roll into this report that BGG put out today. U.S. Secretary of State for a body by telephone. We seek to return Iraq to normal, which is reiteration of U.S. policy towards Iraq. In the broad frame of things. U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said in a telephone conversation with Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi that the United States was seeking to return Iraq to its natural state. A statement by the Prime Minister's office received by all of Iraq, a copy of it, that during the call they discussed strengthening relations between the two countries in all fields, workflow to edit the right side of the process in Mosul. And I know we've explained that before, but left and right side is kind of misleading. But if you look at the direction the river runs, that runs from north to south, and so they're looking at that direction. And so in this case, right side is what we would call the west side. But anyway, I don't want to stumble over that too much. But it's pointing out things people stumble over. Fight terrorism, restore stability, liberate situation areas in the region. Tillerson said his country supports Iraq for its war against terrorism. I just scrolled, so bear with me. Terrorism in...
Well,
Go ahead.
I think that plays into what I said, too. It's like the whole world is seeing that Iraq is standing up and fighting back.
Right, and with U.S. Treasury going over there and giving them pats on the back for jobs well done and jobs done in timely manners. Yeah, stuff like that. Let me read on. Okay, there are great efforts made by the Iraqi government for the unity of Iraqis, and this will lead to the process of long-term stability in Iraq. He said, Tillerson, we are trying to bring Iraq to its natural state. We had a mod call today where, we questioned that phrase, natural state, and my take on that is still Iraq, and you'll hit what they're talking about. Everything coming back to a sovereign nation's purview. I don't know how else to put that. Whatever a sovereign nation has the ability to do, That's what they're trying to do, is help them with that. So that's my takeaway.
Hey, Pat.
Okay. Yes, sir.
And actually, I'm kind of I'm stepping on you here, but you're about ready to get to what I highlighted this and underlined it in that particular article because I felt like it was, everything in that article and the article itself was very important. All of it was important. But here's the next two paragraphs were absolutely critical. Abadi said that to edit the right side of the process is going faster than planned, despite difficulty, as our strategy is to maintain the civilians. Basically, what I wanted to point out to everybody is that Abadi is saying that their plan to get rid of Mosul, ISIS, is going much faster. This is what I said going back to last Sunday, or Friday, was it?
Right.
Everybody's like, is it really going to happen? I said, you just sit back and watch this thing unfold next week. You won't believe it. And I did say that a couple of times.
You did. You did.
And, this article, essentially Abadi is saying it's going much faster than they had planned, even though it's very difficult, and their strategy is to not kill, to figure out how to save civilians at every turn. And then it said the final bit, which really ties into what Kathy was talking about, said the last paragraph, the people of Iraq from north to south are fighting Daesh and to liberate the occupied, valuing international support for Iraq in its war against terrorism. Basically, they're saying we're every single body in Iraq is fighting this Daesh thing and to liberate their occupied territories, and they value the international support that everybody has given Iraq. So a little bit of a political call, but I thought there were some nuggets in that bit that were pretty cool. One, Abadi himself was again forecasting much quicker progress. This is going back to last November and December. Part of the expectation around the end of the year had to do with Alak and Abadi's forecasts. Here we have it again. This is headed down that same path where there is apparently, and I'm not going to say that these guys are only doing this because of the international price tag, but it probably helped put them on the right footing, is what I'll say. Kind of got them in the right frame of mind. So anyway, that's my commentary on that article, since you wanted to use that.
Right, and that tied in real good. I knew it would. Even though I didn't know what Kathy was bringing, I knew it would tie in.
Right.
As much as she tried to keep it under the cuff, it still worked, didn't it, Kathy?
Yep.
There you go. Andrew, you got anything?
No, you can go ahead with you pretty much said it on that article there.
Right. Okay. And I don't want to, I guess, because we've got a good one, a big one coming up. Good or not, maybe the perception of those having to listen to it, but I don't want to dwell too long on any one given one. I wanted to point out one real quick when Romello had brought in, this was yesterday, Abadi confirms the start of steps for the community reconciliation. And maybe it seems like a little report or, under the radar kind of thing, but that's a big deal over there. And it's going to be ongoing. This is not an overnight, like, BGG, and I think Mr. White even pointed out, it's not an overnight thing. They're going to be working on this reconciliation for some time. But to say that the Prime Minister confirms the start of these steps is important to me. That's more propping up the plan that the country has. Okay. Andrew, you got anything to put with this?
Yeah, on this one, it was, what did I see that it was talking about? This is with the reconciliation with displaced as well. And I saw an article, I just skimming through articles today. I've seen one they're talking about some more housing units they've gotten almost completed for these displaced people. So they are putting them back in homes.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. I saw that, too. Yeah. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's good with everything that with the part of getting this private sector going, moving this, getting this private sector going, and just getting this money moving, get them jobs.
The private sector is mentioned in the upcoming report that we've got that takes up, I think, 8 pages. Not 10, but it is long. Let me see. Bear with me a second. This one is, and I've got some reports that Loop and I together had found that support this big thing that I'm fixing to bring. But it's called A Working Paper, The Industrial Sector Reality and Its Problems and Ways to Promote It. Okay, and so to give a little bit about what this is about, it's like I said, it's kind of long, but hopefully I will, in a brevity fashion, give you the gist of this. This is a Dr. Medhat Qureshi, who is a economist and a university professor. He wrote this paper in March 2016 to be held under the auspices of the cabinet, but because of political security circumstances, this was postponed. Okay. What this paper does is it aims to diagnose the reality of the industrial sector, identify prominent problems and obstacles that stand in the way of development without coming up with specific workarounds itself, because it wasn't the scope of the paper. It was just to diagnose and to give Iraq's plan forward on how to move the industrial sector. Okay, so you've got topic 1, vision for Iraq's economy college. The economy is characterized as being an economical rental depends. Economical, I guess we would call it rentier, maybe, right? Depends on the production. It depends on production and the export of oil in generating GDP, and financing the general budget and source of foreign currency. Thus, the Iraqi economy economical single side, and it suffers from major structural imbalances in its trade, absence of commodities such as industry, agriculture, sense of open economy influenced by international economic volatility, right? The significance of any fluctuations in world oil prices is reflected directly on the overall local economic conditions. Changes in the prices of goods imported into the country directly reflect also on the general level of prices and inflation, imported inflation. Okay, so this here is from the first paragraph, and I will not try to bore you with the whole thing. What I'm trying to do is point out some highlights and the direction that they see themselves as needing to accomplish and diagnose. Okay, so
hey Pat, let me jump in here and give people a couple of quick notes.
Okay.
This particular paper, I'm familiar with this because I've read this before quite some time ago. But a couple of key points about this: a rentier state or a rentier economy or a rentier, when they use that terminology, is when a state derives all or a substantial portion of their revenues from either the sale or the rent of indigenous resources. Obviously, it's oil in this case, but
and in this oil, right?
They're essentially, and that's where it comes. They come up with that rentier terminology. Iraq is fully aware that they have that they have to diversify ultimately, and that's what this guy is pointing out. But I also wanted to flip back. There was some commentary on one of the calls we did a few days ago. We talked about national reconciliation. We were discussing what all that means, and Andrew brought it up, just a little vague reference. I want to make sure I jump in here and fine tune that because there were a lot of people that listened to. I don't remember if it was the last call or the one before, and they come away and scratching their head and they're going, "Oh, this isn't going to happen for 3 to 6 months." And I'm like, "How in the world did you get that from what we told you?" And
I got you.
And what I'm trying to get at is this. national reconciliation, the terminology reconciliation. People, commenters, gurus, and people that throw that terminology around as though it's a push-button device do not know what they're talking about. National reconciliation, or the tying back of all these 3 or 4 or 5 communities, because there's a whole bunch of them. There's the Sunnis, the Shias, the Kurds, the Christians, the Yazidis, there's a whole bunch of different people groups, and, at any one moment, 2 or 3 of them don't get along with anybody else. So, and that, by the way, is a concept that they are addressing themselves. Personally, this is my personal opinion. I'm just going to tell you what I think it is. I think the IMF and the World Bank, UN, want to see Iraq stepping in the right direction. They want to see them pushing the buttons and pulling the levers and working on getting this stuff done. Anyone who says national, quote-unquote, national reconciliation is done and over with in a one law, I mean, how can you possibly? It's like saying you can get rid of racism in one law. Seriously? Yeah. I mean, come on, man. I mean, we've been working on this thing in the United States since the 50s. And neither side can figure it out. We're still messing it up. So that's exactly what I'm pointing to at this. I'm not saying that national, and nobody in our calls, by the way, no one with any brains listening to our calls would infer that anybody on our 2 previous calls said that national reconciliation had to be done. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying that those world powers want to see Iraq moving in the right direction. And, this is, this is part of their entry into the world markets. They're not going to, I think, ultimately what it boils down to, they're not going to let another Saddam Hussein, Iraq, enter the world communities and have a wrench and jerking everybody, messing everything up for everybody. They're just not going to let that happen. And that's exactly what these comments are geared towards in the long run. They want, Iraq, regarding the national reconciliation, they want to move in the right direction. What phase they want them in, I don't know. I highly doubt. In no way, shape, or form do I imagine that the bar is set to where they need perfect harmony and a big old hippie commune going on over there. It's not what the IMF is asking for. I mean, they're asking for, at least get through the threshold, get through the entry door. So anybody that says this, their RV or currency reform, economic reform isn't going to happen until national reconciliation, or that we said that, I can't imagine how you extrapolated that from what we were talking about. We're just giving you, we're just giving you solid information that's reality instead of stupid stuff. I mean, how could anybody refer to national reconciliation as a 1 week or a 1 month or even a 1 year project? It's not accurate. So anyway, sorry, that's my rant. I wanted to get that off my chest, and I wanted to say that because there's a lot of people that were in the chat room that were, they come in with these pouty attitudes about, well, I guess it's not going to happen this year. Right. You do what you want. You wait as long as you want, but I'm only waiting as long as Iraq wants, which ain't going to be that long.
Oh,
well, I'm glad you did say something, and I apologize if I didn't give you space to to add to that when I was giving around, time to speak to it. So I apologize.
That's okay. It hit me. That's something that's been going on in the community for the last week or 10 days or something. I wanted to make sure I pointed that out regarding national reconciliation. It's not what everybody thinks. It's going to take a little while. World powers, IMF, World Bank, UN, plainly want something moving correct, want something moving the right direction, but there is no way, shape, or form that they want a completed national reconciliation project, nor will there ever be such a thing. But they want them to get, they want them to get started, try and make an effort.
Yeah, it's important, and that's why I wanted to bring Romello's post in behind yours, which, kind of, there's so much good stuff on. Going on. It's what do you leave out at the news time? What do you leave out? It's the hard part.
Yeah. Well,
but
so I wanted to those couple of key points I wanted to toss in there and brush up a little bit. Anyway, let me get out of your way. So rentier state is essentially a one-dimensional oil economy. It's what they have right now.
There you go. So
yeah, that's what it boils down.
It goes back. Back.
We know it. Everybody knows it. They got to fix it.
So it goes back to a centralized form of government, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and here's the deal. This paper. I mean, stop and think about this. Much of what they're getting international support for right now is geared around economic reform, making their economy multidimensional, and the thing that we're vitally interested in, obviously, is currency reform as it associates with economic reform. But the bottom line is Iraq wants it all. And that's exactly, these type of working economist papers have been around for a while, where some of their brightest minds have theorized on how things need to change. But the truth of the matter is they're right on the cusp of that change right now. They're implementing all these things because they need to. They need revenue from, the buying and the selling and the taxes and the tariffs and the coming and the going and all the stuff that a normal state would partake in, as opposed to just operating on their oil revenue, which their oil revenue is massive. According to even reports today and yesterday, could be, they could be the number easily. We've said this for years. Iraq could easily be the number one oil resource to the world. Still, there's so much undiscovered, unexplored, untapped reserves. So,
Kathy saw a report where they were talking today about finding some more. Every time you turn around, they finding some more that they didn't know was there. That's pretty funny. But
that was,
but yeah,
there's just that one find or that one speculation that they got an extra 300 million barrels that they didn't know about. I don't know. I mean, it's a bunch.
Right.
300 million barrels.
Well, I know, for instance. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm good.
I was going to say, for instance,
that was the article. There was a lot of undiscovered some undiscovered area could put them from like number 5 on the oil list to number 1.
Yeah, because I know there's a company, I don't remember the name, but they just put in 6 or 8 exploratory wells not too long ago here. So where they not sure they've got some, they're looking for some. So anyway, I wanted to move on to this other part here. This is number 2 in the list, and this here has to do with the industry, and what you're talking about is the setbacks that the industry has had to undergo. As far back as 1964, the Iran-Iraq War, which lasted 8 years, and then, Iraq's aggression in 91 and the things that, so in the meantime, you've got the industry has turned to putty in places. In addition to the above, the Iraqi market's wide open and messy, and it's irresponsible. Manner for all types of goods without controls and imposed tariffs or quality control. Well, remember, this guy wrote this paper a while back, and some of these things are now superseded by what they're doing. And so it's kind of neat to see where they're pointing out what they needed and to see what's been accomplished of that. Aftermath of the invasion. Okay, I don't want to get stuck in too much in this. What I want to do is hit the high points. Section 3 is highlighted the problems and constraints facing the industry. And then they've got paragraph 1 through 10, and I'll just hit the tops of them. Stop government and private factories during the aftermath of the invasion and robbery, as well as output production lines to most factories. I just did not read that right. Destroy and stop most government and private factories. Okay, they were destroyed during this time. Okay, lack of electrical energy needed is one of the points. Lack of adequate environment for investment and industry activity and rising production costs. Again, during the time this paper was written, which I think was March of last year. I have to go back and look at it, but it was sometime in 2016 is when this guy wrote this paper. Lack of support for the protection of local industries. We're seeing that being accomplished. The protection of the goods made in Iraq, which is what they're trying to implement now in the broad sense. Some of that being by way of the tariff system that heretofore has been circumvented in more ways than people knew there were ways. But they're getting a handle on that. Andrew, you there?
Yeah,
Andrew?
I'm here.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing. You said one time it looks like a blotter every day, a police blotter of the people that they're now pinching in these tightening controls that they've been asked to place, and now on a daily basis, people just take for granted. They go, oh well, so they caught a few people at the border crossings, yay! They clap their hands. Wow, that means their system is starting to work. Right?
Yeah, they're arresting people. There's people committing crime just like there is over here. It's like today there's a group of individuals stole one of the minister's cars and took off with it. So they're looking for them. But yeah, there's just a lot of stuff going on. They're tackling it as best as they can. It's like today there was a couple suicide bomber attacks in the northern part of Baghdad that they ended up stopping, and as well, they caught another, like 3 or 4 terrorists in the southern part of Baghdad that they arrested. They're definitely stepping up on their arrest and making sure they're trying to make it safe for everyone.
Well, and they're pointing out here in paragraph 6, difficulty of obtaining financing medium long term to local factories. Again, another thing the bank is. We see reports all the time where now they're starting to change those things that they're calling for that need to be accomplished. In other words, this is a list of what we need to do to get what we want. Being the productive industrial sector, and we're sitting here looking at them, and almost half of them are checked off already, right? Okay, yeah. So national capital flight to neighboring countries. Okay, the OFAC, right? I know that's not exactly what this is about, but some of the measures that the central bank has put, and OFAC being part of that, is helping to create a bottleneck whereby it's harder now to spirit the money out of the country. Right, and that itself raises the credibility of the currency, because nobody puts a bottleneck on a currency that's worthless, right? Why would you put all the security measures? Why would you care what the foreign accounts look like if it was going to be bozo buttons for the rest of its life? You get me? So my thinking, just in my opinion part here, the choke point that we see by way of those measures they're now putting on the security measures, for instance, making sure they're not funding terrorism, making sure they're not spiriting, the money in different ways. All those measures, 10 months ago wasn't there. Okay, so Kathy, have you got anything? Does anybody have anything to add so far?
Just reiterating what y'all have said. I mean, it's wonderful to see, and
that's what I thought was the neat thing about this report was it was like a checklist. And we can almost go off and go, okay, done, that's checked, And although, this isn't from, quote, the IMF or CBI or World Bank or, even U.S. Treasury, this is by a learned professor who's also an economist, and for all his accuracy or inaccuracy presumed, he's listed stuff that we can go, okay, yeah, I've seen that. Okay, they've done that, or at least working on that. You feel where I'm going?
Yeah.
Hello? Okay. So y'all get what I'm saying.
It's not all coincidental. I mean, it's
there you go. Yeah. That's why it's many parts. There's no one disjointed event that is the clinch or the cinch or the linchpin. There's too many linchpins. There's no, and I try to tell people, don't, somebody asked because the banks are offering people to now put dollars and dinars into the bank account, does this signify somehow the lower dinars being introduced? And I can't even relate it. It never even popped into my head until the person asked the question. I'm not knocking the question. What I'm saying is that it's apples and mangoes. It's different. It's nothing to do one with the other.
It says with their strategic vision of the private sector, they're looking to get away from the public sector and just denounce they want to adopt the market economy and just have that private sector go and flourish.
Right, and that's part of what the bank is doing when they offer for people to put dinars or dollars into the bank account, is they're trying to get people in and get the chunky money out of the mattress.
Yeah.
That's their intent. It's not a signal of nothing except them trying to garner support from customers. Or what I'm trying to say, instill in the customer that they're worthy to have you put their money there. Okay, I'm mumbling now, so let me move on. Lack of commitment, various ministries to Iraqi products. Wow, we just saw. In fact, I've got 3 supporting reports where the GOI just made it so that the government can no longer import. They have to use materials in the country, right? One of them was Loop's article. The GOI obliges the MOF not to fund any contracts for the imported material of goods. And then there's another one. Bear with me. Prevent the import of what could be produced locally. And then there's another one, the government bans imports to find that makes careers in Iraq. I know it sounds like a buggy thing, but what they're saying is what could be made here, that's what we're going to buy. What can be locally manufactured. There's another one a little more clear even. It says oblige ministries to buy materials locally manufactured. Okay, so I know that was a long tirade, but it's pointing out that that's checked off. That's already done. Okay, moving on. Strategic vision for the private sector. State declared by its constitution, general orientation, adopt a market economy. Move away from central planning. Okay, reliance on the public sector exclusively as it was previously. Accordingly, attention should focus on the private sector and give greater importance in greater industrial activity and increase efficiency and productivity, and encourage to partner with the public sector with foreign companies to facilitate this necessary legislation should be enacted and fix the banking system and enable it to contribute more to the support and development of investment and production. Another thing being moved forward. I'm not going to give my opinion as to how far I think, is there still some law dangling out there? I'll give my opinion in this. Every time I've heard a lot mention, the reasons for not moving ahead, they always boil down to stability and security. I don't hear laws, but I could be missing something. So I'm not going to die on the hill of no, there are no laws. So, okay. Public and private partnership. Okay, this is article number 7. Partnership is a successful way to promote investment and industrial production and growth. Okay, that makes perfect sense. And that's more things that they're trying to do. is the public and private partnership. That's where they point out the investment needs to be increased, because you have you got a high consumer confidence, but they have a low investment, and you can't stay there forever. So what we're looking at is ways to increase the public-private partnership, special plans to reduce products, requirements for the public sector, ensure private sector products, partnerships, cooperation, need to establish councils for the public and private sectors with experts, professionals, academics, to formulate the policies to support said industry. Then you've got encourage public-private shareholding. Another report, Andrew, that we've got to support. Number 4 here is stock market registered an increase of 308% in shares last week.
Wow.
Right? And then Loop's got a follow-on report where banking stocks soar Iraqi stock exchange at the close. So banking stocks seem to be the high point. But as you mentioned one time, you started doing some math on these percentages that this thing has increased. And to date, I don't know if you've added the 308 and whatever this stock thing was for today.
Since the middle of January, I think it was, around January, I've been seeing like almost a total of 540% total.
40%. There you go.
Since the Dinar started off, it just jumped 50%. Just the start of that, and then it seems like ever since that went, it's just that stock market's been going and going and going. It's taking off.
Yeah, and so go ahead, BGG.
Hey Pat, you ready? I got several things and then a wrap up, and you're gonna like this. I'm gonna give everybody a quick finale. This is your grand finale, and it comes directly from the Facebook group. So if you go to anywhere we have the link up that you can join the DU Facebook group, the private group, here are your top 3 headlines in the Facebook group right now. And this is it. This is the key. Updated. Iraqi forces take over the Mosul airport completely. TV. That's on their TV over there. Here's what that means. When you take over the airport of that particular city, you have control of the city. That's it. No in, no out. Rebel forces, ISIS, Daesh, they can't come or go. That party is over. Next article. BAS News says ISIS, the Islamic State, is totally surrounded in western Mosul, according to the Defense Ministry, sounding like it's, pretty grim for them. And the third article in line, it's just one right after another after another. And by the way, the guys over at the Facebook crew, they do a fantastic job. It is just a barrage of news all day long, every day. There's something like, 4,500 people are members of that group, and it's just sprouted up. Seems like it was overnight, but it hasn't been. It's been an effort, and just a huge crew of people who dig for news every single day. Third article, while Mosul is steps away from freedom, ISIL units revolt against their leaders. Of course. I just put a title in the chat room that the ISIS is executing its own fighters for abandoning the battlefield. This deal's over. When that stuff starts, that's the beginning of the end. And these guys are all, it's kind of a real character issue here. These are not people fighting for their homeland. They had some weirdo idea, and they realize they've come face to face with what it is. They're not in it either. They're trying to bail out. So listen, those are 3 huge headlines. They point to exactly what we're talking about. And for all those people that said it wasn't going to happen for 3 to 6 months because of whatever they heard on some call, you need to open your ears, clean your ears out. None of that is what we said 2 calls ago, or last call, or this call. And as a matter of fact, I even told everybody over this weekend to keep an eye on Mosul, and it was going to happen. What are the 3 headlines I just read to you? So, that's what it is. It's on. It's on like Donkey Kong. Listen, folks, thanks for tuning in tonight. We appreciate everybody who makes Dinar Updates what it is. The folks here on this call, especially, what a diligent crew. Stay tuned to Dinar Updates. all the different outlets, the blog, the Observer, the forum, the chat room, the Facebook group. We will continue to bring you more Dinar news, Dinar info, and Dinar commentary as we're able. Have a great evening.